What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic trade barbs. UFC heavyweight champion Jon Jones did not mince his words on Twitter recently when he called out his upcoming opponent Stipe Miocic for allegedly ducking him throughout 2022. In addition, Jones is claiming that the former champ may not even be competing in International Fight Week this summer. Jones then followed up the tweet with a stern message for the former champion, questioning whether or not Miocic plans to actually return to the octagon after 2 years away. For his part, Miocic was quick to respond, telling the champ that he would see him in July. From the sounds of things, Miocic has no plans of passing up the opportunity to reclaim the heavyweight strap. As Jones previously stated, many considered the Cleveland native to be the greatest heavyweight in UFC history, given his record for most title defenses. For a while, Miocic looked nearly unbeatable inside the octagon. From 2013 to 2018, he lost just once to Junior Dos Santos in 2014. 2 years later, he would claim UFC gold by knocking out Fabricio Werdum in the first round of their UFC 198 showdown. After rattling off 3 title defenses, he lost the belt to Daniel Cormier at UFC 226. The following summer, Miocic reclaimed the belt by TKOing Cormier at UFC 241 before closing the book on the trilogy with a decision win at UFC 252. Less than 1 year later, Miocic met Francis Ngannou again at UFC 260 in March 2021, where he lost the title. As Jones recently showed, it's certainly possible for fighters to return after a long layoff without missing a beat. With Miocic approaching 41 years old in August, do you think he still has what it takes to defeat Jon Jones? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Conor McGregor weighs in on Francis Ngannou's departure from the UFC. As Conor McGregor continues to go back and forth with USADA while navigating his path back to the octagon, the former 2-division champion has officially given his thoughts on Francis Ngannou's departure from the UFC. The way McGregor sees things, the Predator may have made the wrong decision. During a recent surprise appearance on the MMA Hour, McGregor weighed in on the situation, referencing Ngannou wanting to pursue a big money bout inside the boxing ring by saying,
like if you think of Ngannou, it was, I mean, think of all he got. Okay, you know, he had his injury. Think of all he got. Like he was in that PI, using all the equipment, everything. There was no dough on that. You know, there wouldn't have been no charge on that. Like he's getting accommodations, getting everything sorted. I thought he made an error, to be honest. I mean, okay, he hasn't fought in a minute. Get a bout under the belt and then maybe start. I wasn't sure why he done that, to be honest.
Of course, Ngannou has continued to maintain that his reasons for leaving the UFC were much deeper than simply money or wanting to box. Ngannou previously stated that he had 3 specific points he wanted to negotiate with the UFC on, knowing full well that the promotion wouldn't give in to all 3, but hoping the 2 sides could find some sort of middle ground. So far, there's no word on when Ngannou would return to active competition. When he does, it looks as though he'll be making his pro boxing debut against Deontay Wilder. After that, Ngannou plans to compete in MMA again, either under the PFL banner or the ONE FC banner. How do you see his post-UFC run going? Sound off in the comments below. Joe Rogan reveals who he thinks is the greatest of all time. Longtime UFC commentator Joe Rogan has officially made his voice heard in regards to who he thinks is the greatest fighter of all time. During a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan dubbed Jon Jones the GOAT, saying that if the heavyweight champ had lived 1,000 years ago, he would be a warrior riding into battle.
Yeah. But Jon is like a genuinely sensitive, intelligent guy who's trying to do the right thing, but he's a conqueror. He's a conqueror. That's the thing that's inside of him that leads him to be the GOAT. And without that, you don't get there.
Of course, much of the debate surrounding Jones' status as the greatest of all time revolves around whether or not his PED usage should disqualify him from the conversation. While many believe that his talent alone should make him the GOAT, others, like Faraz Zahabi and Sean Strickland, believe his PED usage should eliminate him from the conversation, given that in other sports, an athlete with as many failed tests as Jones would be banned from the sport. After testing positive for 2 separate performance-enhancing drugs after his UFC 197 interim title win over Ovince St. Preux, Jones then had his knockout win over Cormier overturned as the result of metabolites from a 3rd performance-enhancing drug the following year. After having the win overturned and being stripped of the title, Jones wound up continuing to fail tests as a result of what USADA's Jeff Nowitzki claimed to be lingering picograms in 2018 and 2019 during the lead-up to the Alexander Gustafsson rematch and his UFC 235 clash with Anthony Smith. Do you think his PED usage disqualifies him from the GOAT conversation? Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Aljamain Sterling willing to fight Merab Dvalishvili under one condition. On the heels of Merab Dvalishvili's dominant win over Peter Yan at UFC Fight Night Las Vegas, there's been a lot of talk about his pact with longtime friend and training partner Aljamain Sterling. For quite some time now, both sides have maintained that they have no intention of fighting one another. The plan, so it seems, is for Sterling to defend the title against Henry Cejudo at UFC 288. Should he emerge successful, the Funkmaster will either defend his title once more against Sean O'Malley or move up to featherweight, making room for Dvalishvili to contest for the title. Of course, UFC President Dana White stated that passing up on a title fight because of a pact with a teammate is not a smart career move. While Dvalishvili maintained that Sterling plans to move up in the not-so-distant future, the Funkmaster said that the two have never discussed fighting one another, while saying that $500,000 wouldn't even be enough for the two to consider the idea. According to him, the two would only be willing to fight under one condition. He spoke during a recent sit-down interview with Barstool's Robbie Fox, saying,
"No, we never talked about that.
Yeah.
And for us to fight for that kind of money just doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, if we were talking like NFL money that can actually, these guys make $50 million for like 1 or 2 years. You know what I mean? That's life-changing.
50 mil, you and Merab, next pay-per-view.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like, why would we ever cross that type of line to do something that's not even gonna last us?
Do you think the two will compete against one another in the future? Or will Sterling move up and render the whole thing a moot point? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Dana White canceling a UFC fight. It was reported earlier today that Jake Matthews versus Gabe Green on May 13th is off due to Matthews dealing with an injury. What do you guys think about this situation? Jorge Masvidal's Gamebred Boxing 4 card finalized for April. Jorge Masvidal's Gamebred Boxing 4 card has officially been finalized for April 1st in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The pay-per-view card will cost $49.99 and air both on cable and digitally through a number of platforms, including UFC Fight Pass. Gamebred Boxing president Dean Toole gave MMA Fighting the full rundown for the event this week, saying, "For digital pay-per-view, In Demand also has ppv.com now, so it's available anywhere in the world. If you have iOS or Google Play, you can download ppv.com app or watch this anywhere. The card will be headlined by former UFC champion Anthony Pettis and one of the greatest boxers of all time, Roy Jones Jr., in a fight that is sure to draw plenty of attention on social media. In addition, the card will feature MMA legends Jose Aldo and Vitor Belfort. Aldo will be meeting Jeremy Stephens in the ring, who he defeated back in 2018 via TKO thanks to a beautiful liver shot. Belfort, on the other hand, will be squaring off against another familiar name, Ronaldo Jacare Souza, who defeated him via TKO at UFC 198 back in 2016. How do you see the fights playing out? Drop your thoughts in the comments section down below. Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman both willing to fight Conor McGregor. Former 2-division champion Conor McGregor recently revealed that his upcoming showdown with Michael Chandler will be a welterweight scrap. In addition, McGregor stated he'll likely be in attendance this weekend at UFC 286 in London, where the welterweight title will be up for grabs. Although he hasn't fought at welterweight since his dominant win over Donald Cerrone in 2020, McGregor believes that with a dominant win over Chandler, he could find himself right back in the mix for a title shot. Given his star power, many have pointed out that McGregor getting a title shot wouldn't be entirely surprising. During the UFC 286 press conference this week, both Usman and Edwards weighed in on McGregor potentially getting a title shot, with the former champion saying that he's always welcome to fight with McGregor. Rocky also spoke about the potential fight ahead of his first title defense.
As the king, I welcome all challenges, so whoever comes, get it. Whoever comes next. But now I'm focused on Kamaru Usman. I believe he's the toughest challenge right now in the division, so I'm focused on that. And whoever comes next, then that's what it is,
Of course, first McGregor will have to defeat Michael Chandler. In the meantime, however, the immediate concern is figuring out whether or not the Irish superstar will have to go through 6 months of testing prior to returning to active competition. While USADA has maintained that McGregor should go through the full process of working his way back into the USADA testing pool, the Irish superstar has maintained he simply needs to provide 2 clean tests before returning to active competition. Do you think we ever see a world where McGregor challenges for the welterweight title? Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. Feels like there's so much money in that trilogy fight that Dana White would let Diaz sign a one-fight contract on that one. John Kavanaugh. I've never seen Conor so pumped before. Meanwhile, Conor's literally on the best Lucky Charm dust money can buy. Gaethje vs Poirier 2 is something I could get excited for. Everything Sean Strickland said about Jon Jones was true. It's unfortunate that the UFC seems to favor some of their fighters and punish others for doing the same thing. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.